hi everyone, and it's a great pleasure to meet all of you. Unfortunately, we cannot do it in person, but I do believe we'll be able to do that in a few weeks or a month from now.
Nirit, maybe you want to go to full screen view for the slides.
I'm not on full screen?
And no.
Is it okay now?
Yes, perfect.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So let me perhaps start by introducing myself. So my name is Nirit Dudovich. I'm a researcher here at the physics faculty. As I mentioned before, my group studies extremely fast phenomena in nature. So I'm an experimentalist, and in my lab, we try to capture electrons as they move and interact with each other during extremely short timescales of about 10 to the minus 18 of a second, and this is a tiny fraction of one optical cycle, and therefore it's so challenging. In my second hat, I'm also the head of the physics board of studies, and I'm in this meeting here together with Nirit and Kfir Blum, who are in charge of the recruitment and admission process in our faculty. I mentioned my path, the academic track I had, but let me share with you my own personal perspective. As I mentioned, I grew up here at the Weizmann Institute. I did my master and PhD here, and I still consider this time as the most wonderful period I had in my life, and I really miss this period very much. During those years, I learned how to become a researcher, how to ask questions that have never been asked before, how to perform experiments that have never been performed before, and reach my own scientific discoveries, and nothing can really compare to that. So I envy you for being at this stage in your academic career. I hope, again, that you'll be able to visit us soon in person and walk in our beautiful campus. Here is a picture taken in front of the physics faculty. This is the grass where we used to sit together, argue, have stimulated discussion. In fact, a major part of our academic research is not done inside, but outside, where we like to stimulate each other and think of future research direction. But if you will enter the physics building, which is right here behind those trees, I think immediately you will feel the unique atmosphere that we have inside. As you know, Weizmann has no undergraduate program, and therefore it enables us to create a very unique system where there is practically no hierarchy. So master students sit together with PhD students and postdoc with well-established professors, and they all sit together in small groups focusing on scientific research. And if you walk along the corridor, you would see that the doors of the professors is mostly open, and they're always happy to discuss their research and share their ideas with everyone. We accept to our master program the top students from universities in Israel and the top universities abroad, so the competition is international. And we select those students based on their grades, recommendation letters, but most importantly, an interview, a personal interview that enable us to estimate what kind of researchers you will become in future. Finally, we want all of you to dedicate your full time to research, and therefore we provide every student, no exceptions, with a full fellowship. Our master program is composed of two important stages, and it really spans over 2 years. The first year is fully dedicated to courses. Here, we want you to expand your knowledge, to deepen your understanding by taking basic courses, and to get the proper toolbox that will, and the skills that will enable you to become a physicist later on. And then between the first year and the second year, you would go through a very important, but also exciting, in my opinion, transition. You would become a researcher. So while in this first year, you're still solving problems that have been solved before, and you ask questions that have been asked before, you explore areas which are well studied. In the second year, you start to do your first steps in unexplored territories. And this is, I think, it can be confusing to some people, but it's a very exciting period in your life where you kind of directed to reach your own scientific discoveries. So let me describe in slightly more details our academic year. So the semester begins in October. The first semester is fully dedicated to 3 important core courses, and these are Quantum Mechanics 1, Quantum Mechanics 2, and Statistical Physics. And then by the end of the first semester, you will have some taste of what experimental physics is, and you will find out that it's very different compared to the experimental project you had in your undergraduate studies. You will be assigned into one of our experimental groups. You will feel the special atmosphere that each group has inside. You would learn what it takes to become an experimentalist, participate in experiment, and if you're lucky, you may participate one of their scientific discovery. Now, at the beginning of the second semester, you would already have some vague idea of what would be your future research direction. And here we would advise you to choose between several excellent introductory courses that will prepare you into your future research direction. Okay, so this was the first year of your studies. Now you're ready to choose your future research group. So by summer of 23, we ask you to choose a research group, to find an advisor, and here you start to work on your own academic research. You will submit your proposal during October, and in June, you have the option, if your supervisor recommends that, to choose a direct PhD track that will take you faster into a PhD track. For those of you who continue their master, by the end of the 2 years, October 24, you will have to submit your master thesis and then take a master exam. Now, when I go more years than I'm willing to admit backwards to my master's studies here, I think that my most vivid memory is not the specific topic that I studied and not the specific exercise that I had to solve, but the experience of sitting, it was mostly on the grass or in the library, with other students who were in the same academic stage as mine, with other master's students, and studying together. And I think this was the most wonderful aspect of my master's degree here. We sat in small groups. We were stimulating different ideas in physics. We tried to solve together the exercises, and by that to overcome the main challenges together and not as individual. And that made a huge impact on me, on my ability to enter new fields in physics. So acknowledging the significance of working in a group, we have initiated 2 years ago a new program where, if you're interested to, we can assign you to a group, and this will be a group of about 5 to 6 students that sit together to study with the help of a tutor. And a tutor is a senior master's student, a second-year master's student, or preferably a PhD student that will help you to go through the exercises, help you to overcome many of the challenges that you may face. We also provide another type of support. Each first-year master student is assigned to a tutor, again, a senior master student or a PhD student. They'll help you to go throughout the first year of your studies. And you can approach this tutor with any question or any difficulty that might raise. This tutor can help you solving an exercise, help you to understand a subject that was not well clarified in class, or overcome any personal difficulty that you may face during the first year. So just to tell you that you're not alone there during the first year, we do provide you with lots of support, both by us, but also from the entire faculty. Few words about our faculty. Right now, we have about 140 master students, slightly less PhD, and about 70 postdoc. But if you'll check the numbers, then surprisingly, you would find that 1/3 of our students are coming from, not from Israel, but are foreigners from all around the world, which means that the atmosphere here naturally is highly international. You hear all kinds of language in our corridor. Also, if you'll check the ratio between the professors, the group leaders, and the students, you would find that this ratio is really small. It's about 4 students per 1 supervisor, which means that the research groups are very small. And this is excellent because it enables us to work really with no hierarchy, to work together with the students. I meet my students on a daily basis, and we have kind of very informal meeting. We actually sit together and solve all the problems together. I think this is one huge advantage of Weizmann Institute. So I encourage you to register. Please do not wait with that. There are no registration fees. There are no tuition fees. So the course program is free of charge. As I mentioned before, we want you to dedicate your full time to research, and therefore we provide a full fellowship of about 7,000 shekels for masters and slightly higher for PhD students. You have several options to increase your fellowship. For example, you can work at the Weizmann Institute guiding high school students, and that can increase your salary. You can approach external fellowship and increase your fellowship by about 20 to 30%. And finally, the top students, based on their grade and performance at the interview, receive a special prize of 15,000 shekels, acknowledging their excellence at the stage of being accepted at joining our master program. So here I would like to transfer the virtual microphone to Kfir Blum, who will provide with more detailed description on the admission process.
Yes, thanks, Nirit, very much. A few words about the admissions process. As Nirit said, it is comprised of several parts. So first, you apply online. When you apply, you should upload your CV, grade sheets from your undergraduate studies. Those of you who don't have yet the undergraduate diploma or degree, usually it's specified. It is specified what is lacking. So many applications, of course, people are applying while they're finishing the last year of undergrad. That is totally acceptable. It should be clear what courses are still missing, what you're doing now. Then recommendation letters are important. If you have worked with a research group in the past, or even in the industry, in high tech, for example, or something related to that, where you can obtain a reference letter from someone with some type of research experience, that can be very useful to have these additional evaluations. So use this opportunity to give us reference letters. And then there is the interview. The deadline for online application is April 15. The process goes as follows. So first we have more applications than students we can admit. Somebody, I think, needs to mute. There is some acoustic noise. Alexei? Okay, I will try to go on. Alexei, we need somebody to take care of this. Well, so I will try to go on. I hope you can hear me. Deadline for application online is April 15. The stages are, first there is preliminary screening of the files. Some applications we will not be able to go on to process. Other applications will follow and be forwarded to admission committees. That's essentially the interview. After the interview, we collect together the recommendations from the interviewers and the information in your files, and the committee sits down and reaches a joint evaluation. And then there are usually, again, three possibilities. Some files we will not be able to proceed with, and they would be declined. The bulk of the files, most of the applications will be put on a waiting list usually. That's the third stage. A waiting list is absolutely not a decline. It just means that we are evaluating a large amount of files and that you have passed the basic screening and you are now essentially in the top list that is being considered. So a waiting list is not a decline. It really means it will take us more time to reach a final decision. And some files will be accepted already at that stage. We will do our best to return our answers as early as we can. So again, many candidates can receive answers even before the online deadline, the online application deadline, but most of the answers will be received later than the application deadline, usually within a few weeks. If you're unsure what is the status of your application and you would like to ask, don't hesitate. You can send us an email to the administrators of the final graduate school, and we will do our best to be responsive and to answer you and update you on how the procedure is progressing. Maybe I will add just a few more words about the interview. So the interview itself takes typically between 40 minutes to an hour or so. We're doing our best to have it an open and friendly and not an intimidating experience. It definitely is not meant to be. A large part of why we do these interviews is not so much to examine you or test you, but to really get to know you. We would like to have a chance to interact with each of our future students. The future students are really a selected team that is joining the faculty here, and we would like to know each and every one of you, to hear about your background, to hear your questions, and to be able to see how you communicate as a young researcher to be. Interviews can also be considered as an opportunity if for some reason you believe that you have not managed to perform as well as you think you could have in terms of grades in your undergrad. That commonly happens, and the interview is a wonderful opportunity to show us that you are actually an excellent young physicist. So that's an opportunity. There will be some basic questions about undergraduate physics in the interview, and we will also like to hear about some experience you've had in research during your undergrad, which can include, for example, research in laboratories, the more advanced laboratories during your undergrad, even works that you've done or research-related analysis that you've done outside of academia. It is a very open opportunity for you just to share a little bit of your experience in research. Okay, Nirit, I think by me that is all. Just to say, we are very much looking forward to welcoming you, to getting to know you during the admissions process, and afterwards when you join our faculty. It's important to say that because it's such a small team of select people, you make a huge impact on the faculty. We are eagerly waiting to see you, and it would be wonderful to receive the best students again for the coming years.
Okay, so thank you, Kfir and Nirit, and this is the chance to ask all the questions you still have about this admission process.
Hi, can I ask a question? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
What is the requirement to get accepted about grades and interview?
I think your connection is intermittent. The question was, is there a requirement regarding grade?
Yes.
There is no So during the screening process to check which candidates we can interview and which we cannot, there is no strict guideline about grades. And part of the reason to this, as you might understand, is being international as we are and being open to even the main universities in Israel. It is very difficult to calibrate the meaning of a grade across different institutions. We are getting better at doing this, and there are tools to try to do that, but it's not absolute. So usually, if you feel you've had a good undergrad, you feel that you find yourself in physics research, and you enjoyed your undergrad and you did generally well, everybody more or less knows what it means to kind of being one of the leading students in a sense. And this could be experimentally oriented, it can be theoretically oriented, it could be anywhere in between. It could be you don't know what you are, experimental or theoretician. Many of us, this is true for them and definitely for young students. If you feel that this is a place that you would like to try as your home, research in physics, you should apply.
Thank you very much.
I have a question as well. How about students that are finishing their undergrad, not like this semester, but after the first semester of the year? Is there an option to start your studies at Weizmann Institute on like second semester?
Maybe Nirit should take this.
I'm not sure I understood the question. You're asking, so you need one additional semester to start to finish your first degree?
Right. Yes.
That's a good question, which means that you would like to join only in the second semester. Is that correct?
Right.
So in that case, perhaps what I would recommend is not starting in the second semester, because our course program is really built in a very structured way. It is built such that first you take the core courses and only then advanced courses. But of course, if you're interested, then you can meet with us, consult with us what kind of courses you can take. And I would also advise you perhaps join one of our group to do a project, to get to know the faculty better. So definitely there is an option to do that.
And when should you administrate and like sign up for such a thing? Should I talk to the faculty in the summer or sign up now?
I would advise you to register, and later on we can discuss exactly, on a personal level, what would be the preferable way to start.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excuse me?
Yes, Ankit, just before that, I want to add one more thing about the previous question, actually. I just wanted to add, there was a question about the bar in terms of grades for the interview. I wanted to add one comment that in recent years, we're trying to also interview students with fantastic grades or students with with excellent grades, that perhaps in previous years, we would tend more to accept without an interview. And again, this is not, we don't view this interview necessarily as an exam. It's another point of information, but also very importantly, it's a chance for the student to get to know us and for us to get to know the student a little bit before they come. So students with excellent grades, even though they are likely to enter the interview process, again, this is not something to scare you. It's just an opportunity to get to know us better. And to the previous question, a question like this, if there are courses you need to complete and you're not sure you can join on the first semester, you're also encouraged to write to us, email to the Feinberg Graduate School Administrator, Michal Kiri, and the physics department and the physics faculty, and we can answer case by case. Yes.
Can you talk more about the PhD admission process?
Maybe before that, I think we have a question from Ankit that started to...
Yes, sir. Sir, I wanted to know about whether a master student can also join for the MSc program at the institute. Like if I want to do like dual masters.
so the discussion here is about the master's program. So yes, I mean the most of the participants are. Yeah, this is the open day essentially for the master's studies, and the application process we've been describing pertains to the master's studies. So,
sir, like I'm in the final year of my master's study, and I want to join as a master's student.
you mean that you want to perform a second master's study?
Yes, sir.
In principle,
yes.
In principle, this is possible. You can apply. So what you need to have is an undergraduate degree, and if you already have a diploma in some degree, this will not, I think, be held against you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Oh, I had a question. The present university that I'm studying in, I am already enrolled in a bachelor's master's integrated course. However, the institute allows us to do the master's project or the thesis for the master's outside the present institute. However, the degree itself will come from my present institute. Does Weizmann have, I mean, is it okay for this kind of setup to happen? So in effect, I will only be doing the second year of your master's course. Yeah.
So, Kfir, do you want me to take this?
Maybe I can comment. I had a student who did exactly that from ISC Bangalore. So he did the project in the MSc, BSc MSc in my lab, and it was a project he got awarded for in Bangalore.
So the process, will this follow similar to simply doing a project with the faculty, or would it be via this registration process that is going to happen right now?
Yeah, so it was just as a project. It's basically was the thesis project of his ISC Bangalore program, and it was just a project. He was not enrolled in the MSc. Later on, he was enrolled. The year after, he was enrolled, and he did masters with me, and now he's a PhD in Weizmann. But yeah, the project was just a project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me just add that if you want to join us, I mean, initially as a master student at Weizmann, then of course, I think the committee of the interview will have to decide whether you have the proper background to start immediately your project, or do we ask you to take the core courses first. And this is based on your background and knowledge compared to what we require here.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? You can ask us about the interview itself or the experience during first, second year.
I have a question. How many recommendations do we need?
Maybe I will take this. Well, there isn't a strict number. There isn't really a maximum or a minimum. But it's also part of your own judgment that you're approaching the correct person to receive a recommendation letter. So the person who writes it needs to have some familiarity with you. Either you significantly excelled in the course that that person was teaching at the level that they can actually testify a little bit about your skills as a student and as an academic, or again, somebody senior in a project that you did outside of academia, or some group leader where you actually did some research project during your undergrad. So, you know, a bad letter exists, these things exist, and they can affect your case. So if you ask for 10 reference letters, including people who don't know you, that would probably not be useful for your application. Just to tell you what's the kind of the standard, usually we receive somewhere between 1 and maybe 3 reference letters for these applications. If you know very well 4 people, that's senior people, that's fine. If you don't know anyone, that's okay. You are young students. It's just that if you do know, a handful of people, or 1 or 2 that can recommend, it's a very good idea to ask for letters. I hope this answers.
Yes, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Rami, we don't hear you well.
1 second. You hear me right now? Are you looking for specific GPA from the BSc degree? When I want to admit to the master program, you say that you are looking for GPA graduate.
So are we looking for specific GPA? I would say no. If your file is excellent, you have a good chance. So that I think is the short answer. We're looking for high performing students, with affinity to physics on all its various branches, and we can only admit essentially the top students to join the program. So that is the answer.
I come from optical engineering. I have optical engineering, not physics, and I work in the industry in KLA. So I can admit to physics. I can apply to the physics master program if I have a degree in engineering.
That is an excellent question, and I'm sure it applies to many here. The question is, if you come from an undergraduate background that is not necessarily physics, so for example, mathematicians, engineers of various types, or chemists, etc., the answer again is that there is no very strict guideline, but there are basic academic requirements that we need to admit the students. And this is, you can find it on the Feinberg Graduate School webpage in the application guidelines. So for example, that there are a number of core courses, what we consider to be core courses in physics, that every candidate should have in their background. This includes at least 2 courses in quantum mechanics, undergraduate level quantum mechanics. In most places, it's just called quantum mechanics 1 and 2. Sometimes the names are different. At least 1 course in statistical physics, and this can come together or separate with a course in thermodynamics. Some course in electromagnetism is very useful, and it's very important to have a course in analytical mechanics, which is Lagrangian and Hamiltonian dynamics, functional methods in classical physics. These are core courses, and this set of requirements often makes the difference for people who are not from physics background. And if you lack several of these courses, it is unlikely that we would be able to accept you. Again, this is not written in stone. We're looking for bright potential researchers of the future, and those researchers are going to break the rule in the future. And so we're trying to be flexible. But this is the guideline. So if you miss, I'm talking to anybody, not necessarily to you. If an applicant misses too large of a set of these courses, then the application, it would be particularly difficult. Okay, so these courses are mentioned, I think, in the online instructions.
Are those the requirements for PhD students as well?
The process, thanks very much. So the question now is about PhD. The process for PhD students is different, and the requirements are different. So the key difference, as Nirit mentioned, is that master students do not come and join a group automatically. They join the program, and only during the program, do they actually choose the group and are accepted and begin to work in research as part of the group? PhD students join a group. From the start, they need to have a host, an active researcher, group leader at Weizmann, who endorses their application. So that's one first fundamental difference. And also for those PhD applicants, there is an admissions committee. But again, the requirements are different, the procedure is different, and you're already supposed to have some tools that will help you successfully join the group. So that's a separate discussion. And for PhD, people who are interested in applying for PhD, I encourage you either to find your host in advance or to write an email to me or to the Feinberg Graduate School for more clarifications.
Thank you.
Hi, I have 3 questions actually. Sorry in advance. So the first one is, how strict is the course curriculum structure? Let's say I want to take, I don't know, in my second year, one course in, I don't know, chemistry or computer science. Is that stuff possible, even if it exceeds the number of points that I'm supposed to have? That's the first question.
Okay, I'll take this question. So thank you for your question. The course program is quite flexible. However, it varies over the track, the master track. The first semester is not that flexible. You have 3 core courses, quantum mechanics 1, 2, and statistical physics. There is an option to exchange quantum mechanics 2 with a different course if you choose what we call applied physics track, but we recommend most students to take it in advance because we feel that this is the required knowledge for each PhD, each master student. Now, later on, you have full flexibility, especially in the second year. We would advise you to consult with your supervisor and choose courses based on what is more relevant to your research area, but you're also welcome to take courses outside of your research area if you want to enrich your knowledge. And of course, if the load of research allows that, you're always welcome to take more courses than you have to do. This is really flexible.
Okay, thank you. The second question was, if I start to enroll in a master's program and I feel like in my second year, I actually want to not finish like a master's thesis, but go straight into PhD. Is it possible if I, registered as a master's student, then like in retrospect, I'll change it to like a straight PhD from, there are these programs, right? From like straight bachelor to like PhD. So if in retrospect, I click with my advisor and it's all good, is this possible?
Thank you. So there is an option, and many supervisors support this option to take a direct PhD track. This is something we allow. Of course, it is based on the evaluation of your supervisor, whether he recommends that or not. And if you want to do so, then by June of the second year, instead of submitting your master thesis and take an exam, you go directly to a PhD track. Okay, and therefore, and usually by the time where you have to take your master exam, instead of taking an exam, you just take a proposal exam, which means that your second year of master becomes the first year of your PhD.
Okay, great. And third question, how important are the recommendations? Because say I'm doing a double degree, so I don't really have enough points or time for any research projects, and I don't really have any very small courses where we have like an intimate I don't know, relationship with the lecturers. So I don't know if I could have any recommenders. How important is this if say, your grades are good and
That's okay. Don't let this stop you. There would be quite a few applications without recommendation letters. We fully understand it. Just as you said, these are you guys are young students, and it is totally fine. So if there is no natural person that you can ask for a recommendation letter, that is fine. Please apply, and your file will be considered.
Is it like, how impactful is it? So I could take specially a research project in my second semester, but
do that. No, do not invest time to generate a recommendation letter. I mean, if you have it, what I'm trying to explain here is that if you have naturally a senior person that you feel that it is natural and appropriate to ask for a recommendation letter, don't neglect to do it. This is essentially the way you should interpret what I'm saying. It can help. If you do not have it, it is perfectly fine. There will be many in your situation. We understand it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Question about the first year courses. Is the workload comparable to undergraduate studies? I mean, how many days a week do we have the courses?
So I think, okay, you can ask what is the formal, I think, requirements of the courses in terms of how many days do you take courses? It's about 5 days a week. So in that sense, I think it could be even less than your undergraduate studies. However, the majority of the load is not necessarily the classes themselves, but the time which is required for you to sit and solve the exercises. In fact, if I can share my own experience, when I was a master's student, I really enjoyed, and I had a very, very intensive undergraduate studies. I did my undergraduate in physics and computer science. And during that time, I felt that I'm kind of chasing myself and submitting many, many exercises. What I liked about the Weizmann Institute, that I didn't have 10 courses, but only 3 I had to focus, but then to fully understand them very, very deeply. And I had all the time in the world to put my effort and my dedication into these 3 courses. So I felt I had a better chance to understand them better and deeper.
Thank you. I also have a follow-up question. Assuming optimal COVID conditions, or I don't know, the classes are frontal, or is there an option to take some of them remotely?
So thank you very much for raising this question. In fact, it's a very important, I think, issue to refer to. Over the past 2 years, we were facing the challenging conditions that were forced upon us. But let me tell you, that during this time, the first priority in our faculty was given to the first year master's students. So when the faculty was shut down and I couldn't bring my own student to work in the lab, all master's students, with no exceptions, got a special permission to arrive on campus. It's true that during some of those months, we couldn't have in-person classes because that was not allowed by the state itself. We could not gather together 50 people. And therefore, for some periods, the lectures were in Zoom. But even then, we have initiated special meetings with the lecturers in small groups, special meetings with their tutors in small groups. The board of study met all the students on the grass where it was allowed and safe to have it. And we keep kind of challenging ourselves, how can we help the student overcome this situation? One thing which was clear to us that we want to avoid is a situation where all students just sit in their home and study by themselves. This is something that we have managed to completely avoid during the past 2 years.
Thank you.
Can I also comment about teaching in the pandemic? I've heard about a lot of talk from other universities by students and professors about how terrible it is to learn through Zoom. and this is personal, I can't really relate. I would say that the IT department did an amazing job in transforming the classrooms into very Zoom friendly and very hybrid friendly. And I've taught last semester, and my name is Jonathan, I'm a PhD student in the Astro department, and I've TA'd a class in the great Weizmann Auditorium, and it was amazing. I felt like no drawbacks compared to teaching in person. And I think this effort is, I don't know of any other faculty in any profession in the country that made such an effort. And it's just remarkable.
Thank you.
I think there was one more important question in the chat. Thanks, Jonathan, by the way. One important question in the chat about working in parallel. So maybe Nirit wants to comment. I will just read the question. The question was, is it possible to extend the master's program so that you can work in parallel?
Okay, so thank you for this question. Let me tell you that in principle, it is allowed if, and Michal, are you here? I think the regulations of the Feinberg Graduate School is that you can work 4 hours a week or 8 hours once in 2 weeks, but our system is very flexible. On one hand, I would say I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend that because the master is not a very long period, and I would recommend each student to dedicate his full time to research. However, if you face some financial problem, if you want to increase your salary, you can always approach us. And there have been many unique cases where we have allowed, due to certain circumstances, for students to work more hours. Of course, everything has to be coordinated with your supervisor who should support that. And I would say that it should be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Hi. I want to know more about the research program. I got a mail about a research program that's starting, that I can submit my application next week, I think. You know what I'm talking about?
Research program
Yeah.
For master?
I don't think so. For masters, it's only if you in the last year of physics, like the third year, you can start the program. And do you know what I'm talking about? Which program? Or I search in the mail?
No, please send me an email. I'm not sure I understand.
Maybe Weizmann Young Scholars, perhaps?
Come again?
חוקרי ויצמן הצעירים?
כן, I think so.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So you have an option which we highly recommend to become a young Weizmann scholar. And within this program, you can join us during the third year. And during this year, you join one of the research group. You kind of participate the research on a partial basis, of course. We are aware of the fact that you're still doing your studies. And I highly recommend this program for 2 reasons. First, you get to know better the Weizmann Institute. In fact, I did something similar when I wanted to apply for the Weizmann, and we know you better. And I think this is much better than any interview that we can have. So you can have a very strong recommendation letter from your host here.
Okay, and if
you want more details about this program, definitely we can send it by email.
My main question is, if I'm already started the third year, can I still join to the program?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, and do you know how many days a week?
So I think it's very flexible. This is something that you have to coordinate with your supervisor.
I think there are two options generally. One that condense everything to 2 months or so, or something like in the summer, But then there is the annual option, which is let's say like half a day per week or something like that.
Yeah, but this is also very flexible and yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.